there was some kind of presence there with me, some kind of being. That being offered me an invitation. It said, you can cross if you want to. And my answer to that was no. Absolutely no. There's no way that I want to cross. Because if I cross, I'm going to die. My name is Jackmorrigan, and I live in the UK. And I work as a spiritual healer and guide. So I support people as they awaken and as they heal in their lives so that they can live the life they really want to live. I was atheist for most of my life, so I didn't have any interest in spirituality. I was training to be a doctor first, and then I started working in psychological research. So my background was science, and that's what I believed in. That was until I was about 26 years old when I had a chance encounter with a spiritual teacher. And that opened my mind to different states of consciousness, to realizing that I'm more than just my body and my mind. And it set me in motion on a spiritual path. I had been practicing a form of meditation called self-inquiry, and I was practicing it really in a very dedicated way. And it led to me having an experience in a dream where I was having a lucid dream, and in front of me was a spiritual teacher, and he was sat cross-legged in front of me, and he gave me this teaching. He said to me, feel the awareness in your left hand, which I did, and then feel the awareness in your right hand, which I did. So I could feel my two hands, two different things in space. And then he said, the hands are different. The awareness is one. And as he said that, I realized what he was talking about. I could feel my own awareness as the same in both of those hands. And that realization caused a change in the dream that I was in that made me have what is very similar to a near-death experience. So what I experienced at that moment was the whole dream collapsed in on itself. I felt my spine rotating backwards to this very extreme degree, and there was a loud snap sound coming from my spine. Then everything collapsed into darkness, and all I could see was darkness. It didn't even feel like I had a body at this point. So I'd gone from being in a lucid dream to something else. And in this darkness, I could see a point of light in the distance. And it slowly started getting larger. And as it did, I felt this very strong fear inside of me. Like the fear as if I was going to die, like on a really deep level, like my whole being was going to be annihilated. Everything that I knew was going to be destroyed, which was a very unsettling feeling. But at the same time, I could feel this intense bliss, and the bliss felt like it was in the light. So I knew that this light held something positive for me. And as the light got brighter and brighter and larger, all the sensations just got stronger and stronger. And it really felt like I was going to die. And it reached a point where the light was right in front of me, and it was all that I could see. And there was some kind of invisible barrier between me in the darkness and the light in front of me. And I felt there was some kind of presence there with me, some kind of being. And that being offered me an invitation. It said, you can cross if you want to. And my answer to that was no, absolutely no way. There's no way that I want to cross, because if I cross, I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to be completely annihilated, and I don't want it. Sorry. But this being, like, it had like a parental feel to it, and it just like gave me this loving little push, and it pushed me over this threshold, and I moved from the darkness into the light. And when I did, like, all that I was experiencing was just this ocean of golden light, and all the fear that I'd been experiencing moments before completely disappeared, like it had never existed. And there was just this state of bliss and light. I don't know how long I was there. I'm not sure. But after a certain amount of time, I felt like a concern for my body and how my body was doing. So that concern brought my attention back into my body. And I felt my body, and my body was drenched in sweat. And eventually that energy started to die down, and then I fell asleep. I've learned since about Kundalini awakening, which I hadn't heard of at the time, and realized that's almost certainly what happened to me. I feel like I passed through a threshold of death, and in so doing, I was reborn. And in a sense, a part of me died in that process, but another part was reborn, because since then, everything has changed. So my consciousness just opened, and I started having experiences that I thought were just in sci-fi films and fantasy films. You know, I had a science background and I'd been atheist, so I just did not believe in any of this spiritual stuff. But suddenly I was propelled at a rapid speed into those experiences. So I started having out-of-body experiences where I would meet angels. So I'd be taken up out of my body, and I would hear these beautiful voices. I find it really difficult to talk about the angels, because I start crying, because their energy is so pure. But I started having these experiences with them, interacting with them, talking to them doing healing on me, and realizing that all of these things that I thought were made up are actually real. Like, they're real. Those beings are alive, and we can interact with them, and there are incredible benefits for doing that. Just hearing their voice is healing, because the frequencies that it carries calms our nervous system down and expands our consciousness, because they're already in that state, you know. So it's just like, it's really easy to just pass it across. I also started to communicate telepathically with different beings. So some of those were angelic beings, and some of them were deities. But the things that they were saying made so much sense. Like, I was being given advice and guidance. It's completely changed the way that I see the world, and also all the different beings in the world, you know. So not just like angels and supernatural beings, but also trees. Like, I can feel the consciousness of trees and see their light glow. And if I put my hand on them, I can communicate with them. And I'll see images in my mind, like, of what this tree is communicating to me, and receive their wisdom, and realize how alive they are, and how interconnected we all are as living beings. That often in the, you know, the way I was taught, it's like humans are superior to everything else. We are the ones who decide like what happens to everything else, and And really everything else is kind of for us to use, and it's our plaything, a resource for us. But the way that I see other living beings now, it's like, no, that's not how it is at all. Like we're a part of each other, you know, we're part of the same family of being, and trees are our ancient ancestors. They're like our grandparents. Like sometimes I'll walk down the street and there'll be like big trees on the side of the street, and I'll be really moved by it, because it's like our ancestors are right here, like watching over us and giving us peace and doing it all the time, whether we are grateful for it and recognize it or not. And there's just something so beautiful and humble about that. This is really important. So most of us have lost our connection to our living world. We don't realize that we're a part of it. And because of that, we feel disconnected. And it shows in our body in depression and anxiety. And so like there's something missing. You know, I think so many of us feel that there's something wrong, there's something missing. A big part of that is actually just our connection with our world, and realizing that we are a piece of something that is bigger than us. So many people, they'll seek things out because they're looking to be a part of something that's bigger than they are, but we already are. We can't escape it. It's always going to be there. So what you can do to try and remember that is to go down to a river, if there's a river near you, or someplace in nature, and just sit there and spend some time connecting with that place. So it could be as simple as putting your hand in the water of the river, and maybe in your mind just talking to the river as if it's a human being. It helps to form a connection. And if you're really open and really still and quiet, you might be able to hear something coming back. And that can form a bridge between you and the natural world that you are a part of. And it feels like something has come back, like a long lost memory has come back, like you are now supported by something bigger than you. And it's something real in our physical world. You know, it's not somebody else telling you that you should be looking for support from some deity that you don't have a direct experience with. It's like you can put your hand in the river and you can communicate that way.